everyone. Welcome to the Solis Hybrid Solar Installer Training Program for today. If everyone can hear me, please comment down below the number 1 so that I know that you all can listen to me. And I hope you can also see me as well. Okay, please comment down below number 1 so that I know that you all can hear us and you also can see us as well. Please also comment. Okay, hi everyone. Please comment down below number 1 or comment down something so that we know that you can hear us. Okay, yes, we can hear your voice. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the entire Solis team, I'd like to warmly welcome you all to the Solis Hybrid Solar Installer Training Program for today. And we're truly excited that you all came here to us. And as the demand of the smart and sustainable energy grows and the skill certified professionals like you, all of you, make the important role for making the solar power more accessible and reliable as well. So that's why we Solis. We want to organize this to engage more to the people, to share to you all of everything about the hybrid system, which could help you for a future business as well. And also today we have our technical expert, Mr. Hamza, right here, which is Regional Manager of After Sales for South and Central Asia and Middle East Asia as well. He will go through all of the installation scenarios and also the features of our hybrid systems and also the hybrid training parts and so on, everything. So if you have any questions, you can also comment down below in the chat box so that I can also record, and also Mr. Hamza right here can also record all of your questions and answer it right away. And please don't hesitate to ask the question below, okay? So I wish that this training will be such a meaningful sessions and also the interactive session as well. And once again, thank you everyone for being here with us. Let me introduce Mr. Hamza. I would like to invite you to share the screens.
Hello, everyone. This is Hamza from Pakistan, and I'm taking care for the region South Asia, Central Asia, and Middle East for the after sales department. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. So let me start the today's training session. So let me start this thing. Okay. So today there are 2 topics that we are going to discuss right now. And the first one is residential solar systems, residential inverters, and then we are going to discuss with the CNI. Okay. So let me start with the CNI residential systems first, and then for the other things. Okay. Okay. So here we go for the residential systems. So here we have all of our inverters. This is the overview. Let's start for the first thing. So we have IP21 S6 from 4 kilowatt to 5 kilowatt 48 volt hybrid inverter IP21. Then we have 3 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt single phase low voltage system IP66. And then we have from single phase 12 kilowatt to 18 kilowatt single phase in IP66. Okay, so below we will move on and we will discuss more things about them. Okay, so we have also the high voltage systems as well. Okay, in this you have the first you are seeing is the high voltage 3-phase inverter from 3 kilowatt to 12 kilowatt HV, and the other one on this side is IP66 3-phase from 8 kilowatt to 18 kilowatt low voltage single phase inverter. Okay, these are the top selling brands, top selling products over here. And then we also have high voltage 12 kilowatt three phase to 15 kilowatt, 15 kilowatt and 20 kilowatt uh, high voltage inverters. Okay, so IP66, also IP66. So let me tell you a few things. When I am talking about high voltage, so that means the battery input voltages will be higher than 48 volts. Like the battery voltages will be start from 120 volts to 600. Okay, so if I am asking about low voltage, that means the battery voltage range starts from 40 volts to 60 volt. Okay, and the nominal voltages are 48 volt. So these three categories are the low voltage, single phase, and then these three categories are these two are the high voltage, and the middle one is the three phase low voltage system. Okay, so first of all, what solution we are going to talk about today is the residential hybrid solution system. This is the general diagram for the system. Okay, so what inverter can support with the battery, with the backup load, grid load, and then with the PV. And also you can monitor the things with the Solis Cloud, with the Solis Cloud app on the mobile phone. That will also help you out to drain all the things from here to the other region, like to send the data from the inverter to the cloud, and then you can monitor the things over here. Okay. Now there is one more thing, a special feature named as smart load or gen port. This port allows you to this is a multi-purpose port. Like you can attach a generator over here, or you can attach a semi-critical load over here, or you can attach a PV hybrid inverter over here. Okay, so this will help you out about to save your battery settings or to charge or discharge the battery when the battery is going to discharge. Okay, so we will discuss these things in the upcoming slides. Okay, so what are the typical residential working scenarios? Okay, so first is the self-use. So this is the self-use thing. So in the self-use, the thinking for the self-use is like whatever you produced or you stored, it should be utilized, and the priority from the grid should be the least one. Like if the PV is available, the first priority is for the load. First priority is for the loads, and the second is going to charge the battery. And if the PV is insufficient, then the battery will automatically discharge and support the load on the backup side and the grid side. Okay. So this is the whole scenario for the self-use. Selling first. Okay, this is going to be more useful for, I think, Sri Lankan market. Okay, so in this thing, first priority is to supply the load first at the backup load or the gen port load. If the supply is enough, like there have more supply available for the PV, it is going to back to the grid. And then if there will be a specific voltage for the battery or the SOCs of the battery where you can confirm, and inverter will charge the battery to a certain limit, but its priority will be to sell first. Okay, so in the self-use, the priority was first, then battery, and then the grid. In selling first, load first, export back to grid on the second priority, and the third priority will be for the battery. Okay, let's move to the zero export to grid. As you guys know, in some certain areas there is no availability to export back to grid, or there is no the government don't approve the export back systems over there or net metering systems over there. So the hybrid inverter can support grid load as well. Like it will make sure the power that is going to be utilized for these three things is sufficient to support this thing. It is not going to make more power than the required, higher than your requirement. Let's suppose here you have 3 kilowatt, 2 kilowatt at the back. It will only provide it will only take the power from the PV that is going to be utilized over here. It will not export back anything to the grid systems. Okay, so it can help you out with the systems. Can you guys hear me properly? Jay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. 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 So if you guys any have questions, you can drop down to the chat box and we can respond you. Okay. So the fourth scenario is going to be the peak shaving system. Now we are going to talk about the systems where you have a specific limit from the grid side, like 10 kilowatts or 5 kilowatt. And if you exceed that limit, the grid is going to charge you some extra charges, like why did you reach out your limit? So in that case, all you have to do is to install this hybrid inverter, and it can measure the power coming from the grid side, and it can support, like let's suppose you have a 5 kilowatt grid import limit from the grid side, and the load that is running right now is 10 kilowatt. So if it is there daytime, PV can support and the battery can support. Okay, but let's suppose it is the night time, PV is not available. So 5 kilowatt from the grid side and the remaining from the battery for to support the load. So make sure that you do not cross your limit from the grid side. Then we have the electricity trade market. Okay, nowadays there are some third-party VPPs like virtual power plants or EMS platforms that help you out to support when you need to charge and when you don't need to discharge, and when you need to discharge the battery to make the to trade the electricity with the utility. Okay, so in these kind of cases, Solis inverters can be communicated through the data logger or Solis API cloud or Solis cloud by API to any third-party VPP and the EMS platform, and they can also be controlled with the Modbus protocols. Okay, so here are the countries like UK and the other countries, and which VPP and EMS companies are registered with us. So time of use with the fixed period. This is also a time scenario that can be implemented in the Sri Lankan market. Like you might have different time periods with the fix. Like if we think look about the China, they have China's Zhejiang province. They have a specific period for different from spring and autumn and summer and winter, different months. So you can adjust these time slots in the inverter settings. So it will be easy for you. In the peak hours, you can use your own charging system. Like you can use your own batteries to support the load. So you don't cost too much. And when the rate is too much low, the rate from the electricity is low, in that time you can charge, or you can how to say, utilize the power from the grid. So these two you can easily do this thing. So customized charging and discharging time period, customized charge and discharge current. You can also set the current level and customized charge and discharge SOC target. like if you want to fix any kind of charging, discharging according to the current, or you are going to specific time you want a specific battery level to be charged at the certain SOC, you can also do that thing. Okay. Then we have dynamic tariff arbitrage. So in this thing, in some markets, they have a different uh, export or different import rates. Specifically, in some places they have, if in the peak hours your battery discharge back to the grid, they give you more subsidy. So in these kind of cases, Solis AI is integrated with the inverters, with the Solis cloud, and it can easily check according to your utilization what type of utilization you have, and it can easily automatically controls the battery charge and discharge and maximize the profit. Okay. Even it shut down the PV and turn on the load in the negative price period, like in the period where the price is too much low, it can drop down the PV and it can put all the load for the grid side, so you can get more you can use the utility or the system in a more efficient and price cost in cost effective way. So this facility is available in Finland, Norway. This has already been utilizing over there. Okay, so next we have is the retrofit existing PV plant. Now, let's suppose you already have an on-grid system or a grid type system. So still you can install a hybrid inverter with the same fitting or with the same system. So you don't have any issue and you can add this plant to the existing PV system. So this will help you out to monitor the system level self-control logic and system level export power control logic. So you can add in grid tied inverter and the hybrid inverter AC coupling scenario. So even like when the grid is turned off, the grid tie inverter is turned off, your system can be still run with the help of uh, hybrid inverter other than grid load. Now is the uninterrupted power supply assurance. Okay, let's suppose there is some kind of bank or some systems which have a very critical load, and they have the generator, they have the utility available, okay, and they want to use the system with no blackout. Okay, so in this case they can install the generator on the gen port of the inverter, which is also called the smart port. So on this point you can attach the generator over here, and this will help you out. If the grid is turned off, PV will be supporting to the load, but let's suppose it is the PV is not sufficient for the load, or it is the night time, so the battery will be supporting to the load. But now let's suppose the battery is also dropped to 50% or any other percentage that you said. So once it reaches to the set point of the SOC, it can automatically turn on the generator, which can charge up the battery and support the load. So once the batteries are charged again, it will automatically turn off. So the customer himself don't have to turn on or turn off the generator by himself. Inverter itself will automatically do these kind of tasks. Okay, now let's suppose the customer or you already have a grid tied inverter available at your site and the grid outages are too much. In that kind of case, you can also install a grid tied inverter at the gen port. Okay, this will help you out when the grid is not available. So inverter makes sure that you have sufficient power available to support the load from the existing on-grid system and from this PV from the hybrid system. So with both of these things together, they are going to support the load and charge the battery. And when the grid is available, it can also export back through the hybrid inverter. There is one thing, the hybrid inverter and the on-grid inverter the power should be same. If it is 5 kilowatt, it should be 5 kilowatt or less than 5 kilowatt. If it is 20 kilowatt or 30 kilowatt, the power can be from 5 kilowatt to 30 kilowatt, but it should not exceed the power of the hybrid inverter. Okay, so actually the smart port load, it will provide the stable voltages to the source to ensure the continuous operation of the grid tied inverter. Through the frequency shifting control to adjust the power output from the grid tied inverter to meet the generation and consumption balance. So how inverter is going to control the output of the inverter is through this frequency control or frequency shifting control. Okay, the 11th scenario is smart load management. Now you know everybody at home, they have some of the critical loads and some of the less critical load. Like here you can put on the backup port, this is the first priority and the second priority. So let's suppose you have security cameras, fans and lights, all these things you can put over here. And there are some non-critical loads like air conditioners or some heavy motors, you can put it on the second priority. So what will be the working logic? Let's suppose the grid outage happened and the PV is also not sufficient for the support. Like suppose it is the night time. Both backups are running out. Okay. Now the battery is discharged to a certain limit, whatever you fix. Like you can fix the SOC from 100% to 20% where you want to close this second smart port load. Okay. Let's suppose I'm being the customer. I have set the 50% SOC to turn off this secondary secondary critical load to be here. So once the battery is going to reach 50%, it is going to shut down the second priority load. It will help me out to increase the backup load, like to save the battery for the backup load. Okay. So once I have this heavy load is turned off, the battery will be more available for this first priority load entries where they have more grid outages than the normal, like 3 hours, 4 hours. If this load is also running, if this secondary load is also running too much, it can drain the battery in a fast way. So once the grid is returned back, now you have two options. Either you can wait that battery to be charged and then turn on this thing, or you can set the limit, like whenever the grid is turned on, same time you can turn on this load. Okay, battery reserve and the battery backup for backup extension. Now you can set a battery reserve SOC, like whatever you are utilizing or generating from the PV, you can set the battery limit. Like this much power should be reserved in the battery, 50%, 100%, or 80%. So even if the PV is available and the grid is available, it will not discharge the battery and keep that point available for any uncertain or grid outage. It can still support the load. So you make sure like this much power will be available even if the grid is not available. Okay, so you can extend your backup hours according to this thing. Last scenario is the microgrid under off-grid system. This application is for the islands and the areas where you don't have the grid. So you can install the generator directly to the gen port, and here it will help you out when the battery or PV is not enough to support. The generators will be automatically turn on, support the load, and charge the battery. And together they can also work together to support the load. I'm not sure, like they have the Sri Lankan market have too many generators, but I think most proper application for you guys is related to the time of use or time of utilization. So these are the three working modes available for in the hybrid inverters for the customers, and they can be amended according to requirement of the customer. So self-use mode can be used for the working scenario 1 and 3 to 9 and then 12. And support working scenario for the second is the selling first. And then you have 10, 11, and 13 scenario for off-grid mode, where you don't have the grid available. Okay, so mostly the user anxiety for the residential systems for the end users are overly frequent grid outage, poor electricity experience, difficult in operating and applying energy storage system is expensive and requires economic consideration, harsh operating environment, equipment will frequently have problem. So these are the basic anxiety for the residential storage uh, system and users. So first thing, secure independent power supply, built-in backup support, battery reserve function, and the backup overload capability, fully PV power. This makes sure that you have an independent power supply system for your house or your office. Simple and flexible settings, like you can do the settings from the screen, or you can do the settings from the mobile phone through the Bluetooth or from the Solis cloud. You can easily set up or you can easily change the settings through remotely, and it helps you out a lot for the O&M. And even you can these inverters are very battery friendly, like we are compatible with most of the brands available in tier 1. So if the customer or if the market has a specific type of the battery, you can easily utilize that thing. Okay, so moving to the next is the reliable operation. Power flow in real time, you can see the power flow uh, from the screen, and you can also see the reliable data on the transmission system, like from the Solis cloud. Okay, adaptability to the weak power supply, no additional tariff will be incurred. Like you can easily adopt the power systems, like for the different tariff or different there are different export power limits or different limits that you can import. So easily inverter can be work over there. Adapt to harsh environment. As you know, the inverter is IP66, so it can easily uh, be installed anywhere where the environment is harsh. Simple and flexible. Storage systems are not easy due to O&M. Yes, and then storage system have more complex structures and functions, and uncertain installation environment make them difficult to install and apply and maintain, because this system not only includes the PV, and the grid, it also includes the backup and the battery. So somehow it is a little bit more complex than the on-grid system. And one more thing is the key challenge is for the battery. As I told you, in different market, the battery prices and the battery availability is the biggest challenge. So that's why all the Solis inverters are compatible with the most tier one brand, and you can easily have the communication with them. Easy and fast configuration. Okay, so the best way is if you install the system somewhere, and you can easily set up the system from the Bluetooth app or from the screen. And we have a 7-inch large LCD screen with 500 millisecond fast refresh power. So you can see all the power flow directly on the screen. Mostly the end user, they are worried about what we make the power, how much we discharge, what is instantaneous power moving right now. So you can see all the things, and you can easily see the error if any error is coming, or you can see if the inverter is working according to your requirement. Okay, then we have a quick setup initial settings guide. Like in the first step, it is going to ask you for the time and date, then about which type of either you are using CT or you are going to use a meter. Then for the grid standard, your utilization scenario, like storage mode, are you going to use self-use, selling first, or off-grid? These 5 or 6 things you are going to set up, an inverter is going to be in the running condition. Now, in some cases, customers cannot afford the batteries, or they don't want to invest a huge amount in the investing cost of the batteries. So they can move in the step-by-step system. First, they can just only install the PV inverter and the grid system. Solis inverter can also work with the only PV, like the grid is not available and the battery is not available. Inverter can still support directly from PV to the backup port. So all the customers which cannot afford any upfront, they can easily go with the system without having any kind of issues for investment. But if you compare with the other brands, currently they lack the system. If there is no battery, they cannot support to the backup. Okay. So more battery options available. So far, it has matched like 70 plus lithium-ion battery brand around the world provide economical and flexible options for the customers. So these are the batteries which we are working with already. And if there is any third-party battery, the third-party battery, all information is fed to Solis Cloud, making it easy for users and O&M person to access fault issues and troubleshoot them quickly. So the customers, they can also see all the data on Solis Cloud from the battery. And we are also looking for, if you have a specific type of battery brand available in the local market, you can also communicate with us, or you can let us know. We can have a compatibility test with them. So you guys can utilize that battery, or we make the battery compatible with the inverter. Okay. In the places where, then that there is a key challenge, where is the grid outage is very common and electricity experience is very poor. Many developing countries have unstable grids and frequent power outage, high risk of power interruption due to natural disaster in some areas. And the second is user want to utilize more PV power, like expanding PV capacity, access to generators, increase the backup power capacity. So powerful backup overload. Let's suppose you have a 10 kilowatt or 8 kilowatt inverter, and suddenly you connected all of your house at the backup port. You don't use all the things on the backup port, but somehow you turn on all the load suddenly. So an 8 kilowatt inverter or 6 kilowatt inverter can go up to 200 power, like maximum for 10 seconds. Like if the inverter is 6 kilowatt and maximum load is put on is 12 kilowatt, somehow like due to some air conditioners, motor or high power appliances, so inverter is going to wait for 10 seconds. If there is some torque load, it is going to normalize. Let's suppose if after 10 seconds the load is not going to be lowered down, so then in the case inverter will be shut down. Okay, so this is the power for how much. Like if it is 150%, it is going to take for 10 seconds. If it is 200%, it is going to stay for 5 seconds. Maximum PV utilization. So, inverter, if 10 kilowatt inverter can have 16 kilowatt usable PV power, in this case, 6 kilowatt can be used from this PV, can be used to charge the battery at the same time, and 10 kilowatt can be used to support the load. So that means Solis have an edge on the other brands, that it can utilize its PV maximum 160% from the installed one. So there is no waste of the oversized PV. Let's suppose you have multiple sources available and you want to control them. Like in the first scenario, we have a generator directly connected to the gen port. Inverter will automatically turn on and turn off the system according to the requirement. Okay. In the second thing, the generator size is big, or the generator is already installed uh, at the grid side. Okay. So in that kind of case, you can use an ATS, and that can be communicated with the inverter. So inverter can still turn on or turn off through the ATS. So these two scenarios can be easily controlled with the help of this hybrid inverter. Okay, multiple generator connection and auto control system. Let's suppose the PV for this is the Solis solution supports simultaneous battery and generator powering of the load. Advantage: generator can be used for both load supporting and the battery charging at the same time. You can see the power is 8 kilowatt and 2 kilowatt is supporting to the load. So together they are supporting to the 10 kilowatt load. This power, the generator can also charge up the battery same time and support the load. Battery and generator can support the load at same time. Optimal generator running status at 80% rated generator power. Safely prevent backflow to the generator, because if you connect that on-grid inverter directly with the generator, so in that case there is somehow a chance where the inverter will turn on and create more power and export back to the generator, and the generator can be damaged. So if you install the generator at the gen port, you make sure that there is no power flowing back into the generator. Other brands don't have this solution. Like if the 10 kilowatt is available, it is going to support directly to the load. So together battery cannot support the load in this case. You can see. So smart load prioritizing, as we have already discussed in this thing, if you have a second critical load or the load that you want to run on the batteries, but it is not that much critical as compared to the first priority load. In that kind of case, you can install the load at the gen port. So whenever the battery is going to reach at certain level that you have set, in that case, it can turn off the PV, it can turn off the smart load port. Okay. In other brands, they only have one backup port, which is turned on when the grid is turned off, when the grid outages happen. So whole load drain off the battery in a fast way, so you don't have any specific power available for the critical load. So in this case, the battery will be drained faster because all the load will be keep running until the battery is turned off. So in this case, you are monitoring the battery SOC. So it will turn off the battery once it reaches to the certain limit. So customer can enjoy the rest of the power for their most critical loads. AC coupling system. So in the AC coupling system, it helps you out to expand the PV capacity. Actually, the customer already have a on-grid inverter available. Let's suppose 10 kilowatt, and this is also a 10 kilowatt on-grid hybrid inverter. So collectively, the customer have 16 kilowatt PV available, and he can charge the battery through this and support the critical load. So no need to modify the existing grid tie PV system and home power lines, convenient and economical. So you can save a lot of wiring cost and the solution charges. So it is more reliable even if the grid is turned off, your on-grid system can still run and support the load together. Otherwise, when grid will be not available, the grid tie system will be turned off, and this PV cannot be used. So these inverters can be parallel up to 6, and if any of the slave get in faults, it is not going to turn off the system. Okay, that means other than slave, if any of the inverter have any issue, the system will not be shut down. System will be keep running. Okay. So from this thing, you can install, if you are using a 3-phase inverter, or if you are using a single phase inverter, you can also parallel 3 inverters to make the 6 kilowatt. You can easily make the 3-phase inverter, 3-phase output. Okay. Single phase system capacity up to 108 kilowatt 3-phase, and capacity up to 120 kilowatt. Reliable operation. So the key challenge for this one is the poor signal base and resulting in the data delays. So energy storage system have many data and control command that needed to be transmitted reliably to ensure the reliability of the plant operations. Complex operating environment and grid regulations. Typically, high and low temperature tend to cause abnormalities in the BESS, and the effect of grid operations. So what we are going to do is how we are going to take up these challenges is power flow in the real time. So in the Solis, you can click to this stopwatch, and you can set the real time flow data refreshing rate to 10 seconds for 3 hours, which is similarly equal to see the load at just like a real time working. So this will help you to improve the efficiency of the installation, commissioning, and troubleshooting if you are doing the system installation. Once the real-time switch is turned on, the data logger will collect the data in real time and upload the operation parameters of the inverters to Solis Cloud every 10 seconds. So by default, it is 5 minutes, but if you turn on the real time, it can go up to 10 seconds for maximum 3 hours. High efficiency heat dissipation design and 45 degrees Celsius does not drop the land's operation, load operation, and 60 degrees Celsius can still be stable power supply. The production degree is IP66, suitable for raining area and high humidity area like seas, and there where the humidity is too much high. So inverter is dust proof and waterproof capability. So offer the IP66 and offers protection against the high pressure water jet with 8 times more the waterproof capacity of IP66, IP65. Like the power jet, if you throw through the water jet, the power of IP66 is 8 times higher than IP65. Reliable operations. In remote rural area, the weak grid or the generator condition like farms, etc., the AC voltage and frequency may fluctuate. Solis hybrid inverters can maintain the stable power support for backup loads and ensuring no voltage fluctuation in the fluctuation for light flickering. Let's suppose you are in some far area and there are some, in the remote area, the grid voltages are not good, or when the heavy loads are turned on, due to which more current is drawn from the grid or some inverters, so it drops down the voltages from the grid side. So in other bands, you can easily see the fluctuation in the grid in the backup port, like you can see the voltages difference. So for the Solis inverter can easily maintain the backup voltages even if the voltages from the grid is high or low, or if the frequency is fluctuating. So you are not going to see any kind of fluctuation for your backup port loads. Excess power feed into the grid to maximize the profit. The CEB announced a new buyback rate of 45 rupees per unit for the battery-backed rooftop solar system, solar energy exporting to the grid during peak hours, like from 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. If you export back to the grid, the export rate per unit will be 45.80. So what you can do is enable allow export. If you enable allow export, excess PV power will be fed into the grid when there is no PV at night. TOU function like time of use function can be used to set the battery discharge time period so that the battery can sell power to the grid and maximize the profit. So this is the time of use charge discharge period, current and SOC. So current means the battery drainage, how much ampere you want to drain from the battery, and the SOC, how much SOC you want to reach at that time. Like if the battery is already 40% and you have charging time period, so in this time inverter will charge the battery from 100 amperes until it is 50%, it reaches to the 50% SOC. So you can set the times according to this one. So these are the charge period times, and this is going to be the discharge period times in which you can set the power from the battery to the grid. So you can sell the battery power from the battery to the grid in the night time or in the daytime, whatever you charge slot put over here. So here is going to be the start when this charging period will be started and when you want this charging period to be stopped. How much current you want to be drained from the battery to the grid, and what should be the reachable SOC. So we could consider from this power you cannot it is going to stop. So similarly, you have 6 periods of discharging, 6 periods of discharging or of charging. So when the time is between start and stop, the system will automatically discharge the battery according to the set current and set SOC voltages is reached. Okay. Jay, can you help us to show the video?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And also you can answer the questions in the chat box as well.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are going to have a Solis hybrid inverter video installation video. It will be helping you guys to see the installation part of the video of the hybrid inverter. So meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, just drop to the chat box. We will be replying to you. Okay.
This video demonstrates the installation process of the Solis S6 independent power supply enhanced single-phase low-voltage hybrid inverter. Caution: electrical equipment can only be installed and maintained by qualified electrical technicians. Please read the user manual before installation and check whether the accessories in the box are complete. Part 1. Preparation before installation. The inverter is heavy. Please pay attention to personal safety during handling and installation. Please install the inverter in a safe location that meets the requirements for easy ventilation and heat dissipation and avoid direct sunlight. When the inverter is running, there may be risk of high temperature and high voltage. Please install the inverter in a location that is not easily accessible. Energy storage inverter adopts a new screenless design, and you can operate the inverter through the Solis Cloud app. And you can display the operating status of the inverter through the light bar on the inverter. The PV interface connects photovoltaic modules. Input photovoltaic energy into the system.
Okay.
BAT plus and
Let's start
BAT minus interface the battery. COM1 to COM3 interface connects the battery communication cable, the CT wire, the parallel cable.
Come in first priority. Let me share you the screen. For the scenario 1, just a minute. For scenario 1. Okay. So for scenario 1, is the backup load or the grid load come first priority? Okay, when you have the self-use system, the backup load is with the first priority. If the PV power and the battery is enough, then you can go for the grid load. So for all particular systems, for all particular cases in hybrid system, would it be possible to limit the input power from the utility consumption base on the PV input? It could be useful for meeting specific requirements. Yes, you can fix the limits from the consumption of the utility. Like you can use the peak shaving function, or you can use the functions to there is a charging discharging options available in the settings, like if you want to charge the battery with certain limits, you can set the current charging point over there. If it is present, grid inverter. Okay, if the present grid inverter is another brand, can we couple this hybrid inverter? Yes, inverter, the other brand, we prefer that you use a Solis inverter. But let's suppose if you have any other brand, you can confirm with the team, and it should have the frequency derating option available in the on-grid inverter. Then it can be compatible. Okay. If any brand of battery with recommended parameters, can they be used with the Solis hybrid inverters, but they are not included in Solis recommendation capability brand? Yes. Let's suppose if you have some specific brands available in the local market, you can let us know. We can provide you the compatibility list or compatibility parameters, and we can have a compatible test with each other. If you pass that test, in this case, you can go with the lithium-ion LV or the compatible battery port, and you can have a communication with the inverter. Yes, you have to Solis. In such case, how can we integrate the BMS to the inverter via CAN bus? Yes, inverter support both things, RS485 and CAN bus for the battery communication. So the BMS can be communicated through inverter with the help of CAN protocol. Solaris batteries are compatible with the solar inverter or with Solis inverter or not. This need to be checked with the which model you are looking for and which model of the battery you have. Then we can check with the compatibility list. Can we use assembled battery with this inverter? Actually, when we are looking for the systems, most of the people have the assembled batteries available to save the cost from the duty or the import taxes. In that case, there are two options that you can use. First is the communication, or you can set the compatibility of the battery with us. Let's suppose if the battery cannot be compatible or it cannot communicate through the BMS, then you should know the battery parameters. Like if it is a 16-volt system, if it is a 16 cell battery or a 15 cell battery. If you are using a 16 cell battery, then you should go for the 51.2 volt without COM option. Or if you're using with the 15 cell battery, then you should go for the 48 volt without COM. Okay. So you should have the battery data sheet. You can easily set the voltages range, the charging and discharging, and it can be worked with the battery. But this option is available only for the low voltage system. For the high voltage system, it is not going to communicate without like the inverter, like the battery cannot work if inverter cannot communicate with the battery or the BMS. Can you give us an email or other method to contact the Solis to check the compatibility? Yes, we have the local service engineer, Mr. Mohoti over here, and you have Mr. Mark over here, so you can communicate with them. Highly appreciate if you can provide email or other man. Okay. Can we receive these videos? Yes, you can receive the video. Over voltage tripping during heavy sunshine time is the common issue in Sri Lanka. Okay. What is the solution for this with the hybrid inverter? Can we limit export power and the battery charging during the grid over voltage time period? Yes, you can do this. There is a question from Anil. Over voltage tripping during heavy sunshine time is the common issue in the Sri Lanka market. What is the solution for this with the hybrid inverters? Can we limit the export power and the battery charging during the that grid over voltage time period. Okay, if you know the specific time when the grid voltages are going to be high, you can set the time period according to that thing. You can even charge the battery, or you can also limitize the export power. Okay, in the portion where we set the backflow enable, there is also an option available for the export power control. So you can mention how much watts you want to send back to the grid. So you can control these things. And for the over voltage, uh, with the hybrid inverters, we have a wide range of voltages for the range for the high voltage upper limit and the lower limit. So it can easily sustain with the high voltage or the lower voltage. So you can also set them according to the grid code available in your country. Okay. JK inverter BMS LV support is possible. This question you can communicate with Mr. Mark to help you out with this thing. How can we integrate Solis BMS with the brands that are not included in the Solis inverter firmware interface? Okay. As I told earlier, if any situation like this where the batteries cannot be communicated with the inverter, you can send us the battery, or we can send you the test. So you can check the compatibility of the BMS with the inverter. If it passed, we can give a firmware upgrade for the inverters, which can help you out to communicate with the battery. But let's suppose if the battery is not compatible by the communication system, then you have also options available with lithium ion 48 volt or 51.2 volt. One more thing is we have a journal CAN protocol available in the inverter named as in the battery selection named as lithium ion LV or compatible LV. Those are the general protocols available for all the BMS available in the local market, and most of those can communicate with the battery BMS with the help of CAN support. All you have to do is you should know which dip switch or address bit you need to turn on to put the BMS on the CAN port or for the CAN protocol utilization, because most of the BMS can communicate with the CAN protocol and RS485 protocol. So Solis inverter, if you are installing a Solis inverter and you have some battery, you need to connect the battery BMS with the CAN protocol. For assembled LiPo4 batteries, what are the BMS models you are accepted? Actually, there is no certain BMS that we offer, like we accept this BMS and we don't accept this BMS. It's about the BMS you have. You can let us know which BMS you have and we can run that compatibility test. So are we done with the questions? Yes. We have we have pinned Mr. Mahoti. He is our local service engineer available in Sri Lanka. So if you have anything, you can related to battery compatibility issues or any service issues, you can communicate directly with Mr. Mahoti. Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, kindly share the PPT as well. Okay, we will ask our team members to share the PPT with you guys. No worry.
Hamza, can you stop share the screen?
Yes, let me stop sharing my screen and then you guys can have installation video for the hybrid low voltage inverters. And then we will proceed for the next session, that is for the industrial and CNI. Okay.
6 independent power supply enhanced single-phase low-voltage hybrid inverter. Caution. Electrical equipment can only be installed and maintained by qualified electrical technicians. Please read the user manual before installation and check whether the accessories in the box are complete. Part 1. Preparation before installation. The inverter is heavy. Please pay attention to personal safety during handling and installation. Please install the inverter in a safe location that meets the requirements for easy ventilation and heat dissipation and avoid direct sunlight. When the inverter is running, there may be risk of high temperature and high voltage. Please install the inverter in a location that is not easily accessible. Energy storage inverter adopts a new screenless design, and you can operate the inverter through the Solis Cloud app. And you can display the operating status of the inverter through the light bar on the inverter. The PV interface connects photovoltaic modules. Input photovoltaic energy into the system. BAT plus and BAT minus interface the battery. COM1 through COM3 interface connects the battery communication cable, the CT wire, the parallel cable, and the generator communication cable. The COM port is to connect the data logger, so that the inverter operational information can be uploaded to the Solis Cloud platform. Antenna is connected to the antenna to enhance the Bluetooth signal. The gen interface is used to connect to the generator. The load is used to connect to the backup load. The grid is used to connect to the grid, and the generator can also be connected to the grid port through the automatic transfer switch. Part 2. Install the backplate. Appropriate space should be reserved around the installation location of the inverter. Use a level ruler to ensure collimation level and determine the installation position of the backplate. Fix the backplate onto the wall using gaskets and nuts. Tighten the bolts. Fix the 4 corners of the backplate in the same way. The backplate installation is complete. Part 3. Mount the inverter. Align the inverter with the hooks on the mounting plate and hang it. Screw the fixing screws included in the accessory bags into the fixing holes. The inverter installation is complete. Part 4. Grounding cable connection. Connect the grounding wire crimped with OT terminal to the ground point on the side of the inverter. Part 5. DC side connection. When the solar module is exposed to the sun, high voltage will appear on the DC wire. Do not touch the DC wire. Before connecting the inverter, please ensure that the open circuit voltage of the photovoltaic string does not exceed the limit of the inverter. The solar modules connected to the same MPPT must have the same specification, the same orientation, and the same inclination. When you hear a click sound, it indicates that the connection is fastened. Part 6. Battery connection. Compatible battery brands of this product are as follows: Pylon, BYD, etc. Please refer to the battery compatibility list on the Solis website for details. This installation will be using Pylon US 3000s. For battery installation, please refer to the battery manufacturer's instructions. Pass one end of the battery power cable through the bat at the bottom of the inverter and connect it to the corresponding port. The other end is connected to the battery. Part 7. AC side connection. Through the load side cabling through the load on the bottom of the inverter. Access the backup line, neutral, earth corresponding ports. Similarly, through the grid side cable through the bottom grid of the inverter and access the corresponding ports of the grid, line, neutral, and earth. Part 8. Communication connections. Thread the communication cable through the COM on the bottom of the inverter. One end is connected to the BMS port, and the other end is connected to the battery communication port. If only CT is connected, the communication wire passes through the COM on the bottom of the inverter. The other end is connected to the HM. And the other end is connected to the CT to place on the live wire. Close the protective cover and tighten the 4 screws. If you choose a Solis data logger, please connect it to the COM port at the bottom of the inverter. Connect the antenna to the antenna port at the bottom of the inverter. Part 9. Commissioning. Please visually check first to make sure all cables are connected properly. You can pull the cables lightly to confirm. Ensure that no high voltage conductors are energized. Check all conduit and cable connection points and ensure they are tight. Verify that all system components have adequate space for ventilation. Follow each cable to ensure that they are all terminated in the proper places. Close the battery switch and the AC circuit breaker. Close the DC switch. If the DC input voltage is greater than the startup voltage of the inverter will start. Part 10. Log into Solis Cloud app. You can download Solis Cloud app by scanning the QR code on the quick installation manual. Turn on the Bluetooth switch on your mobile phone and then open the Solis Cloud app. Click More Tools, Local Operation, and connect with Bluetooth. Select the Bluetooth signal from the inverter. If you are the installer, please select the account type as installer. If you are the plant owner, please select the account type as owner. Set your own initial password for control verification. The first login must be finished by the installer in order to do the initial setup. Part 11. Quick settings. Set the inverter date and time. You can set to follow the time on your mobile phone. Set the battery model. If there is no battery connected for the moment, please select no battery to avoid alarms. It must be based on the battery model that is actually connected to the inverter. For lithium battery with communication, please select lithium LV. For lithium battery without communication, please select the 48 volt or 51.2 lithium battery without COM. The battery have been set to the optimal value. You can set the battery capacity and charging or discharging current in the battery settings as required. For lead acid battery, please select lead acid. CT is used by default and the CT ratio is default at 2000 to 1. Set the grid code. Please select the grid code. Set the work mode. We recommend setting to self-use mode. This mode can maximize the use of PV power generation for household electricity, or store it in the batteries and use it for household electricity. If need, manually control the battery charging and discharging with respect to time. Please use the time of use switch in the following set points as required.
So guys, this was the installation video for the hybrid inverter, and in this you can see the different procedures like installation of the wires, and then communication settings, installation of the CT, and then the basic part for the installation of the battery and settings of the battery. Okay, so let's start to the next session, that is for the industrial grade or CNI inverters from 29 kilowatt to 60 kilowatt high voltage three-phase inverters. So let's start this thing. So first thing we have our inverters, they are 4-in-1 hybrid inverters. Actually, why we said that's 4-in-1, basically we have all the working scenarios of PCS, PV inverter, TST, STS, and the EMS system. Like for the best systems, they have all this thing in the modular form, but we have all the things built in inside the inverter. So you no need to buy, or you no need to install things step by step. So everything is available already inside the inverter. Okay. PCS means power control system. That means for utilized for charging and discharging of the battery. Then you have PV generating system, that is PV inverter, that is already inside the inverter. On-grid and off-grid switching or genset switching, that is done by the STS, static transfer switch. So we already have this feature available. And the last and the most powerful thing is the energy management system, smart energy management system, that is called EMS. We already have the system. So in this PPT, I'm not going to revive all the working scenarios that we already discussed in the previous system, because working scenarios are almost similar. So moving to the next. Okay, highly integrated, highly reliable, easy for O&M, as easily compatible. So now I will let you know what are the things, why we call it highly integrated. Actually, 4 of the things like PCS, PV inverter, STS, and EMS is already integrated inside the inverter. But in the traditional battery PCS integrated cabinet solution, you have to buy PCS separately, then MPPT, then EMS, and then STS. So these things have a different cost, and these things have a different certification for the local market. So that is you need a space for these things. So we have all the things inside one of this beautiful box. So you can just install it with the battery and you can utilize it. So the next thing is highly reliable. So our inverter is IP66. So you can have, you can install any of the compatible batteries, okay? And you can install the inverter outside to the harsh environment and it can still work. But if you can have a comparison with the traditional battery PCS integrated solution, the battery and the inverters, like PCS and all the other components are installed in IP21 cabinet, which is not good for the health of the system. Why? Because both of the system, they produce heating, okay, which is not good for the life of the system, because 2 of the things are continuously creating a lot of heat in the system, and due to IP21, temperature, moisture, and dust will affect its lifetime. Easy O&M. As the inverter is installed outside of the inverter and it has a cooling system, like redundant fans are available at the outside. So you no need to open the boxes like in the traditional system, and you have to take out the modules for the O&M. And one more thing is, most of the cabinet solutions, they have the liquid cooling system available, which can cause a leakage if you don't do a maintenance. Okay. With the battery and the cooling system in the same cabinet, the internal wiring is complicated. The maintenance process needs either the whole system RMA or dispatching the manufacturer technicians to the site location. Generally use the liquid system. A liquid cooling system need a periodically on-site maintenance every 1 to 5 years with the high maintenance cost, while the liquid system can easily have a leakage issue. The system life cycle failure rates and maintenance costs are high. But in Solis, it is a different thing. We have the fans outside the inverter. You no need to jump into the inverters and check all the things, because both of the things are not installed inside the inverter. So you can easily install the inverter outside the box of the battery, and it can easily work for you guys. Okay. The next thing is easily compatible. When you are going to buy, or when you are going to uh, do the system installation, and you import something that is not available in the market, you need to get certified each and everything. Like you have to certify the PCS, you have to certify the battery system, and you also have to certify the whole installation of the system. But there are the battery solution available already in the markets, which can easily be compatible with the Solis inverter. Okay, in these kind of things, you can easily get the compatible batteries available in the market. Okay, as we are compatible with most of the brands, so you can find the battery sourcing in the market, and inverter is already been certified with the different region, with IEC, with UL models, so it can easily be installed over there. So you don't need to pay more money, or you don't need to spend more cost or on the expenses of the import, or you for the certification of the components available for the cabinet system. So with the Solis inverter, you don't need to do these certifications. Okay, what certifications do we have? IEC model with the LCD, it have the certifications for these markets. You guys can have a look. And then without IEC model, without this, we can have this certifications. And UL model is also available with the LCD. So that is for North America, Mexico market with the UL certification. Okay. So these are the same working scenarios. This is the common diagram for the hybrid CNI solution system. Okay, it also have a gen port. You can install the generator, smart load, or any grid tied inverter together with the hybrid inverter. Okay, so again, all of those scenarios that we read out in the hybrid inverter is similar for CNI models. So we are not going to review them. If you still have any question, just drop in the question inbox. We will respond you. Okay. Same self-use thing. Let me pass out these things on a fast track. You can support the self-use thing, then selling first, then zero export to grid. Let me pass these slides a little ahead. Okay. Okay. So these are the storage mode works. self-use, selling first, and off-grid. Now we are going to talk about the CNI, 8 unique advantages and 6 leading advantages from the other inverters. First thing is unique advantage number 1, usable PV up to 200%, inverter rated power, improve the utilization of the PV generation. As you can see, if the Solis inverter have a 100 kilowatt PV installed, 50 kilowatt at the same time can charge the battery and 50 kilowatt support to the load. So this makes it different from the other inverters available in the market. So it can use PV power up to 200% of the rated power. In other brands, if the power is 65 kilowatt available with the 50 kilowatt inverter, they can only charge the battery with the 15 kilowatt and support the backup load with the 50 kilowatt. So Solis can do 200% PV oversize plus real PV generation. Other mainstream brands can do 160% oversize plus 130% real PV generation. Okay, then we have the biggest advantage is 20 ampere supported per string. This helps you out if the new upcoming brands are there for the PV module or the bifacial module. It can match with them perfectly. As you can see, here we have inverter Solis with the 20 ampere supported from the string, and this is another brand having 18 ampere or less. So it causes 25% loss to reach to power, due to it is 18 amperes, rest of the power has been clipped. And this shaded area, the lined area, it shows what could be the actual power it can take. So from here you can see when it reaches to the 18 amps, it clearly clips down the rest of the power. With Solis, you cannot see this thing. So it can easily be entertaining the high ampere modules available in the market. One more thing is Solis is compatible with 200 Ah battery solution, okay, and 100 ampere battery solution as well, because it has 140 amperes for charging. So it can easily be utilized with 200 ampere battery or 100 ampere battery. Like if you check a 50 kilowatt system having 50 kilowatt hybrid inverter and 100 kilowatt hour backup. So if you use 200 Ah battery, you only need to use 7 units. And if you use 100 Ah battery, then you need to use 20 units. That will be increasing a lot of cost and a lot of work, and also the maintenance and O&M for the batteries, because you need to install a lot of 20 batteries to gain the similar configuration. And how we are saying this thing, because as inverter can do 100, one thing I missed in the last one is we are upgrading the system to 160 ampere, which is compatible with the larger 340 Ah battery. The charging and discharging ampere will be increased from 160 amperes to 140 amperes to 160 in this September. Expectedly, we think this thing. So you can easily compatible the batteries from 314 Ah. Okay. Now, if we compare the charging input and the charging with another brand with similar mainstream brand, they have only the capacity available of 100 amperes. So if there is the system is installed in somewhere where the grid outage is commonly happening, or the grid availability is for the less time, this inverter can only charge the battery in the other brand can only charge the battery up to 71%. But if you compare with the Solis inverter, as it has 140 amperes for the charging of the battery, it can fast charge the battery to the 100%. And this can also more arbitrage opportunities in the frequency response or the dynamic electricity pricing control applications, like in the applications where you have some VPP available or third party or frequency response available. This inverter can easily be charged and easily be discharged according to the time slot that you have for charging. Okay. Now, if the inverter has actually, when we are dealing with the industrial grid systems or CNI systems, the load is also going to be high. So the fifth unique advantage is for the powerful backup overload capability up to 160%. Okay. Solis hybrid inverter can withstand 160 with the rated power for 2S, can withstand with the startup and rush current of large load like air conditioners, motor devices, or heavy machinery. So the backup load connected over here can, if the load is 120%, it can wait up to 600 seconds. If the load is 140%, it can wait for 60 seconds. If the load is 150%, it can wait for 10% or 10 seconds. And if the load is 160%, then it can wait for 2 seconds. Actually, if you are targeting the market with CNI, there will be a lot of load that takes inrush current or that take a lot of torque load when they started. So inverter can be easily utilized over there to support the load. The best feature for this is we do not bound the customer to which size of the generator should he use, because our inverter can work together with the batteries and the PV at the same time with the help of generator. Let's suppose the customer has the generator of 10 kilowatt. Okay. So, and the load running is 50 kilowatt. Our PV somehow is not available more. So the 30 kilowatt PV is available. So according to this thing, if you have a 10 kilowatt generator, you can connect it with the gen port and it can support together with PV and the battery to support the load of 50 kilowatt. But in other brands, you should connect at least 20 kilowatt of the generator or 50 kV of the generator. So it can take 20 from the generator and rest of the power 30 kilowatt from the PV to support the load of 50 kilowatt. And this is the reference cost difference with the, if you use Solis with the 10 kVA or other brand with the 50 kVA. Okay, so lower initial investment, 30,000 RMB versus 80,000 RMB, and low oil usage with optimal generator running condition. Actually, when the batteries will be supporting together with the PV and the generator, the power consumption will also be less. The fuel consumption from the generator will also be less, and there will be less maintenance cost for the system. The inverters, 50 kilowatt inverter and this C&I range inverter, they have two different ports which can help you with the two things. First thing is, if a customer want to install the system with a single battery right now, so he can install one battery stack or two battery stack at same time with the one port. And let's suppose customer want to install one battery, his current application is related to like 50 kilowatt with 50 kilowatt backup or 50 kilowatt hour backup. So he found brand one and he installed that. After 1 year or 2 years, he came to know like, I need to install more batteries with the system. So he could not found brand A, or he find brand B to be more easily found or available in the market. In that case, he can install two different battery brands at the same time with the inverter, because inverter can support two different inverters support two different input for the batteries and two different BMS compatibility available in the inverter. So you can attach two different brands with the system. Okay. So as you can see, we have a large screen of 7-inch with the industrial grade screen that can be helpful for the customer to utilize to see the utilization and the power flow. This can also be monitored with the help of app and with the help of LCD. And the first startup configuration guide only required 3 minutes to setting all the things on the inverter. And the industrial level means we are using Zettler brand. And the best thing is the HMI has the same life as the inverter. Now we are going to talk about 6 leading advantages. First thing is inverter is flexible to PV connection through the DC and AC coupling for retrofitting and expanding. Let's suppose you already have a 50 on-grid inverter available. So you can use use the hybrid inverter together with the on-grid inverter. In this case, you have to install the inverter on the Gen port or smart port load. But if you compare with the other brands, they need to install a DC couple system separately so they can be used connected, because in the best system, most of the systems are AC coupled by default. So if you want a DC coupled thing, most of the best system don't have the DC coupled thing. But in Solis, we already have the built-in DC coupled system. All you have to do is to install some PV over here with the inverter, and together they can work to support all the requirements of the customer. Maximum 200 plus additional 100% of available PV power to charge the battery, support the load consumption, and more reliable operation in the off-grid condition. Because if there is a 50 kilowatt on-grid inverter and grid outage happen, it is not going to be utilize any power from the PV. So if it is attached with the hybrid inverter, it can work directly, and together they can support the battery charging, backup load. So it will be helping out the customer a lot. Now, we also have the battery reserve function. In multiple scenarios, you need the battery reserve function. So the battery can be set to reserve SOC settings value from 200 to 100%. So that can have enough capacity to support the load during grid outage. Okay. And we have smart port load feature available also in this inverter. If you have second priority load, you can attach to the Gen port. And similarly, other brands don't have this option available. So they don't, if grid outage happens, all the battery is drained out because they cannot turn off the load, which is unnecessary. Okay, for all these functions, we have a dedicated smart port or Gen port, or on which you can install a generator, inverter, or the load over here. So this is the port. This is the actual port where you can install this thing, and any of these things can be installed at one time. Or you can install the smart load, or you can install the PV over there, grid-tied inverter available over there, or the generator. Now, this leading function is different from the other one, because when you are adding a BESS system, if you BESS system, they are by default AC coupled. So if the grid outage happen, they cannot support to the load. So they need to install a PCS, and PCS have they need to install an STS, which have some certain delay for the operations. Okay, but in the Solis case, the switching time is less than 10 milliseconds, which is okay for most of the data centers or the banks. It can be utilized over there, and actually it is less than 5 milliseconds. So you can see from the waveform, this is the backup port waveform, and this one is the current waveform of the backup port, and this is the current waveform of the grid. So you can see from here, it just they turned off and the sinusoidal wave is again started within less than 10 milliseconds. And from on grid to off grid, and for off grid to on grid, the transition is seamless. So your load is not going to be tripped. Even the grid inverter is tripped from on grid to off grid or off grid to on grid. These industrial grade inverters can be easily paralleled up to 10, okay, to support 500 kilowatt side. Okay, so so if you are going to install 2 to 6 inverters, you can install directly with the system. But if you are exceeding higher than 6 pieces, you need to install the STS to make sure that you can get a stable power. So these are the CNI hybrid product cases. Vietnam, Lebanon, Myanmar, South Africa, Sweden. Okay, and these are from UK and Spain. Now we are going to have an overview for this new inverter available from 75 kilowatt to 125 kilowatt hybrid inverter with the high voltage. Okay, the functions are similar. This also this also have the PCS generator, PCS, STS, and EMS available inside. So you no need to go for the modular systems. Okay. Let's talk about this thing. So the advantages is similar, like you can use 200 power of the PV, same as 50 kilowatt inverter. 250 kilowatt PV can be installed, 125 can use for the battery, and 125 can use for the critical load. But other brands cannot have this thing. So they can install maximum 156, and 56 can charge the battery, and 100 kilowatt can support the critical load. Again, we have the maximum input for 21 amperes, and the other brands have 16 or less because they are using a DC coupled system, which is which can lead to the 25% of power loss. Okay, this inverter is also compatible with the 100 to 314H battery modules, which can easily save a lot of cost for you to select the battery with the higher ampere hour rating. So the number of the batteries will be less utilized. For this inverter, it can charge the battery with the 200 amperes. With the other brand, you can see you can only go with the 100 ampere. So it cannot fulfill the charge. It can only charge the battery up to 80%. But this inverter can easily charge the battery on a fast node with the help of 200 amperes. This inverter also have the backup port, and it can be 160% overloaded for 10 seconds and 200% overloaded for 0.2 seconds. So the minimum generator you can attach with this one is 25 kilowatt. So it can collectively, if the PV support is available of 80 kilowatt, it can discharge the battery from for 15 kilowatt, and it can support the load of 120 kilowatt. But with other brand, you have to go with the same generator, and the price difference between 25 kVA and the 50, the nominal price is a huge difference. So the customer don't need to the applications where they need an uninterrupted supply system, they can, if they want to add the generator, so they can easily choose the small generator to work with the system. This inverter also support two independent batteries, so flexible for the configuration, and customer can also use brand A and brand B from different companies to fulfill their requirement. And also this also have the 50% this also have the 7-inch large screen, increasing 50% viewing area, so the customer can easily see. The features for the 50 kilowatt and the 125 kilowatt inverter, they have almost the same features and the requirements. Only the number of PV will be increased, scenarios working are similar, and so you can also connect with the, if you want to connect with the any of these things like grid-tied inverter, smart load, or the generator, you can connect with the smart port load available in the side of the inverter. This can also work with the seamless switching with the switching time from with the less than 10 milliseconds. Maximum support 10 pieces in parallel. Okay. If you are using higher than 6 pieces, we recommend Solis distribution box to be installed. It can simplify the whole system and decrease the accessory cost and enhance the stability. So just for the overlook, we have single phase inverters, we have the split phase inverters, we have the 3-phase inverters available. So we have a huge variation and huge models of the inverter which can fulfill your requirement according to your need. Okay. So this is the low voltage hybrid inverters. These are the high voltage inverters. With the low voltage inverters, you can go with the lead acid battery, with the lithium ion battery, if it is compatible. If it is not compatible, you can also go with the without communication protocols available. But with the high voltage battery systems, you need to have a compatible battery installed, or you can get it compatible with our by emailing us the inverter, and we can send you the battery compatibility test. So these are the overviews for just for the product. This is the IP21 4 to 5 kilowatt inverter single phase low voltage, and this was the 3 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt single phase low voltage inverter available with the LCD. And this is from 12 to 18, where the system have the single phase wiring inside, and the load is too much high, they cannot change the house internal wiring, so they can use this one, the single phase one. Then we have the 3-phase one. This is the split phase one. Okay, these are the 3-phase one we already have launched, and they are the hot items available in other markets right now. Okay, let's talk about the solution for Sri Lanka scenario application. The CEB announced, as we discussed about this thing previously, I just want to recall this thing. So because this training is dedicated to Sri Lankan team and Sri Lanka market, so you guys can easily know that the requirement or the new policies from the CEB, our inverter can easily help you out to save the electricity power from our installations. Okay, all you have to do is to select the time of charge and discharge, and you need to select allow export to the grid, and in that time you can turn on the battery reserve switch, and you can set the maximum power at which point you want to set to be exported. Another thing, there was a question from one of our guests, then how we can set the maximum export power. So you can see over here in this point, when you allow the export power to grid, allow export, you can easily set how much power you want to export back to grid. Okay, so it is easily in the case of grid voltages get higher. In these kind of cases, you can easily set the power maximum back to grid. And you can also use the grid peak shaving functions if it is required. And one more thing for the three-phase inverter is unbalanced output mode. Okay, unbalanced output mode means, let's suppose you have a you have a 15 kilowatt three-phase inverter available. Okay, the traditional inverters, they can be working with 5 kilowatt on each phase. Okay, but for Solis, this thing is a unique thing. You can go for 7.5 and 7.5 on two phases, and one phase you can leave for zero power. It can still work. It will not give any kind of errors for the overload. Like traditional brands, they have this issue. If the load is not balanced at the backup port, one or two phases are using power and the other one is not using the power, it will went to the alarm overload. Okay, so this is the Solis solution for the 500 kilowatt hybrid inverter system. So how you are going to do is, all you have to do is to parallel up the inverters. A separately battery will be installed to the each inverter. So it will be easy for you to own and maintain, and even if you need to replace anything, you can do it easily. You need to connect with the master PB port and connect with the PA. And similar, you can go for the cascading. And one thing you have to make sure the grid port and the grid sequence is similar for the grid input, like RYB should be similar for the sequence of the phases should be similar for all of the inverters. And the backup port, the sequence should also be equal, and that can be paralleled up with the same bus bar, and that can be connected with the all load through the ATS. Okay, and if you are using the generator, you can also use the generator with the help of ATS. So it can help you out with both of the solution together with the generator or without with the generator. So this is the total overview of the installation. 10 inverters of 50 kilowatt connected together in one side to support the load of 500 kilowatt. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, you can let me know. Let's move to the chat system. Check. Okay. Okay, for Sri Lanka's solution is required to be used specific battery or it will work with any. Okay, brother, if you are talking about, there is a question from Senku Solar Engineering. For the Sri Lanka solution is required to use the specific Solis specific batteries or will work with any custom made battery in the market. If you are talking about low voltage system, you can go with any of the battery. But if you are talking about the high voltage system, you should go with the compatible battery brand. But let's suppose the battery you have is high voltage and is not compatible, you can send us the via email. We can send you the battery compatibility test. Can you send the compatible battery list for the high voltage inverters? Okay, Mr. J, can you tag the link for the battery compatible for the high voltage inverters?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, three-phase and single-phase inverter can parallel or not? For the hybrid inverters, if you have on-grid inverter, if you are talking about hybrid inverter connected, like single-phase hybrid inverter cannot connect with the three-phase on-grid inverter. No, you cannot do this. And if you are connecting hybrid inverter three-phase with the single-phase hybrid, no, it can also be not possible. So let me tell you a few things related to this thing. In the scenarios where you need to parallel up the hybrid inverters, there are few limitations you need to take care. First thing, the battery or the inverter type should be same. Like if it is 50 kilowatt high voltage, it can be parallel up with the 50 kilowatt high voltage with the same model. If you have 50 kilowatt or like 15 kilowatt three-phase high voltage and 50 kilowatt, 15 kilowatt low voltage, they cannot be parallel. Okay, so you can only parallel the inverters with the same rating. 15 kilowatt high voltage with 15 kilowatt high voltage, yes. 15 kilowatt with LCD with parallel with 15 kilowatt without LCD, no, it is not possible right now. Okay, what is the maximum PV load on S6 5K height 5 kilowatt? It is the ratio of 1.6. You can easily, if the inverter is S6 series, you can go with the 1.5 for maximum PV overload. Okay, do you guys have any other questions? You can drop me down. I am waiting. Kindly share the PPT. Yes, I will try to share the PPT once the meeting is done.
Okay, for the PPT part, just share to me, just reply on the email that the invitation email so that I know which way I can share to you. Okay, just kindly reply on the email. Thank you so much.
Okay, do we have any other questions or we can finish the... Do we have any other questions or we can finish the training session? The LV hybrid inverter, can we export to grid with custom made batteries? Yes, you can do it. Yes, you can do it. But all you have to do is, if the BMS can communicate with the inverter, in that case, it can export according to the SOC of the voltages. But let's suppose if the inverter BMS cannot communicate with the, if the battery BMS cannot communicate with the inverter, in that case, you need to select 48 volt without COM or 51.2 volt without COM. And in that case, you will be seeing in the TOU function, time of use function, you can set the values with current and voltages. So in the, if you choose the night time, you can also discharge from the battery with the help of time of use. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Anyone? We have our expert here. Okay, if no other questions, then this is the end of the training sessions. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that this could be informative for all of you. And in order to have more materials, or if you have any further questions, you can reply directly to my email or reply to the invitation, so that we know that you're getting in trouble or something. And one more thing, after this, I will share to you the exam, which is for to certify as a hybrid installer as well. So if you want to do it now, this is the link for you to join for the quiz right now. All right, once again, thank you everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you have a great night. And that's it. All right, thank you, Hamza.
Thank you, everyone.